I was in the 8th dimension in between episodes, and I brought home one of those floaty bunnies, which helped me glide and hop really high. And also, as they sit on your head, they are really, really cute. Sadly, I've lost this one already. I continued expanding my crop field because my food situation was still pretty awful. And then I got started with today's main quest, which is to figure out what I want to build my house out of, because I don't want to live out in the open with all my chests just lying around. So I started to have a look at all the options all the mods are giving me for building. And it already starts with a lot, because I have the chipped mod installed, which gives you a million options for every block there is. So it will be hard to decide what I want to go with. But one thing was sure, I really love the limestone that comes with the create mod, and so I set up a little showcase area where I can look at all the options and materials available and decide what goes well together before I start building the house itself. And typical for Modded, it comes with a ton of different brick options and carving options as well. So yeah, it took me a while to decide what I wanted to build my house out of. I also remembered there was this large woods on top of the hill next to my base location. So I wanted to include this into the mix as well. So I grabbed a little bit of this wood type as well, even though I ended up not really using it because it's a very vibrant color. And then I floated down with the help of my floaty bunny. In the end, I did not use this because it's like really red. And it might very well be that I procrastinated a long while exploring and collecting more wood and searching for materials I haven't encountered yet, because I'm really bad at making decisions. And I came across some very interesting landscapes. Also, I found another one of these giant sea cities, but this time it was closer to the shore. But other than some really crazy mobs, I didn't really find anything in there. And yeah, I got completely destroyed. Back home, I discovered that one of the local crows was causing a lot of trouble with my field because it was constantly coming back and destroying my crops and stopping them from growing. So I got pretty annoyed by that. With more exploring, I came across one of the villager cooking stations, and I heard of a lot of goats. And I found some more waystones on the way, which I then positioned right there because I found so much cool stuff that I had to empty my pockets. With the pumpkin installed, I also got rid of the crow problem. Then I got back to the cooking station and completely ripped it apart because I'm lazy and I wanted to have the stoves and all the kitchen material for myself. Because then I didn't have to craft them. I then also finally found the wood type I wanted to build parts of my starter house out of, which is this beautiful willow wood, which has a slightly green tint in it and looks absolutely fabulous when you combine it with white and gray blocks, so that is great. Nearby was also a mangrove swamp, where I then quickly grabbed some wood as well, because the more the merrier. And I can't say it enough, I love the wood chopping mod I use here, because in vanilla these trees are a pain. Then found some more crops for my garden, some frog friends. So I set up a waypoint here. And when I came across a structure that I didn't know, I investigated and I found some pretty interesting things like diamonds and other treasures. And then I found an interesting animal, a tiger. Well, staying too close to it wasn't the best idea after all, because you've seen what happened next. It killed me. Why not? Then I collected more stone material I came across to make sure I really had seen all the options. And more waystones. And some landscape was really beautiful. Back home, I decided to locate my starter home right where this small hillside still was, so I began removing it, and then I prepared all the materials I would need for the first floor of my building. I didn't want to start a large-scale project here, so I sketched out the base square for my house using bricks to start designing from a basic volume to then slowly add more and more details. And when I stepped back to have a look at it, I found out that I'm not at all happy with the proportions it had so far. So I started over. And this time I worked with a dirt outline. It would help me to have a better understanding of the sizes and stuff. And once I liked it, I started to fill in with the actual building materials. And I went for rougher stone shapes at the edges, in the corners, and with smaller bricks in between for the walls. For the entrance, I chose this nice smooth look. I then started to slowly break up the boring square I built and made a big tower shape in one of the corners to give it a good place for a staircase in the future, and also have it get a little bit more interesting visually, because the following floor was going to be a different material, which is the limestone I collected, to give it a little bit more contrast and have the foundation of the building look sturdy and old, and the part where I will be living in more cozy vibes. For the flooring, I went with simple spruce, and as I always do, I decorate my window openings so it doesn't look too boring. I also quite love these support elements. And then I built the rest of the shape because the backside of the building didn't need to be so interesting. But yeah, this is what it looked so far. And these stone elements give it a nice trim around the base layer. And so I also put in the walls for the rooms. The stone foundation layer also got a entrance from ground level, and this is where my basement is going to be. Nice and accessible and a lot of space. I then collected more stone and continued with the details, this nice wooden strip around. And so the house slowly started to take shape. I especially liked the room sizes that came out. This is the pantry. And then I enjoyed a little bit of view, added a nice wooden door, and used some more of these stylish trapdoors to decorate the room connections. After the doors then were finished, I went and crafted myself another one of these workbenches to get all the options also for glass, because now I wanted to add in some fancy windows. And oh boy, there were a lot of options, but eventually I went for this diamond-shaped window. And when I tested it, it was, of all the options, the ones I liked the most. So I replaced all the windows and had a look. I liked it because this is how it stayed. Then came some more support elements for the beams of the second floor, and there is where the willow wood comes in. So I planted a bunch of these slightly green swamp trees to collect all the logs I would need for the second floor. The second floor was going to be one of those half-timbered houses, which I really enjoy. So I started with the horizontal logs and stripped them, which is the most satisfying sound. This way the second floor would give me all the space I would need for additional activities like special enchanting or whatnot. I don't know what is coming with all the mods, but I wanted to be prepared. And then I remembered that there is still one wood type I really liked, but haven't had a chance to get it yet, which is in the Twilight Forest. So I sacrificed one of my rare diamonds and jumped into yet another dimension. The Twilight Forest is also a place I want to discover more in the future, because there are these giant forests with these so beautiful oak trees. And last time I played this mod, you could only get these saplings to grow if you got a somewhat special one, and then these ones grow really tall. But for now, none of these wood types convinced me, and I stick to the willow one. But here I paused the exterior building for a moment to focus on the kitchen. I first placed all the stolen kitchen materials from the villagers, which I then upgraded and added even more storage to, because I know that in modded you can get quite a lot of items really fast, and also a little bit of variation gives a very cozy look. And there are a lot of decisions to make. For example, which door shape is the best? I went with the third one. It fitted my house the best. Then it was time to move the wheat and vegetable fields, terraform a little bit more area behind the house where I wanted my garden to eventually go. And using this vein mining shovel made this process so much faster. I really wish we had this. I forgot that I didn't have it for stone yet though. So it was classical mining again. And after filling in the one or the other gap, I added some more details to the front of my house, where I imagined being a water source of some kind for the crops, and then I built the new field location and converted it all into farmland. And made a wall around it with carpets to get on top. And with this little trick, I even got this water source to work, which is nice. After all was hydrated, I planted the crops and started moving some of my items to the final location. And here I plant a rice field. I love rice. And with the season slowly passing, the crops are really starting to speed up. Now it is finally time for cooking. And I had something simple but really nice in mind for that. I started with making patties. And the Farmer's Delight mod's way of making bread. I know you can craft bread with just 3 wheat, but I enjoyed the process of making dough first and then sticking that into the oven and wait for it. While that baked, I sizzled my patties, and then it was time to craft my first burger. But that was all the beef I had for the moment. So in order to make meals in the future, I needed to go out and get myself some livestock. And for that, I made myself some cages and went out exploring with the favorite food of these animals to breed or collect them in order to get them home safely. And these cages are only made for smaller animals, so I had to grab the baby variant of all the animals. So here we have chickens and some sheep, more chicken. I also collected some pigs and cows. And with that, my cozy farm is taking slowly but surely its shape. I also will continue building this, and maybe something interesting drops out of there as well. But basically my plan is to add a lot more detail and greenery and basically make this a cozy retreat and have a place where I can just go and do a little bit of gardening and cooking. I will put out a poll of what I could do next in this series, so if you have any special wish or would like to see a mod or anything that comes to your mind, subscribe and then you will see the poll and can help me decide on what to do in the next episode. Also, leaving comments is always a good idea. It tells me if the things I do are interesting to you. It would mean a lot to me.